welcome to November 2025 horoscope and tarot reading for all signs. I'm laughing because this is my second or third time trying to film this because we are in a Mercury retrograde shadow period, so technology is giving me a run for my money, but we're here, we're going to do it. Third time's a charm. So November 2025, we'll start off with an overview of all of the astrological transits for November, and then I'll do a sign-by-sign reading for the new moon, full moon, major transits, and then also a tarot card pull for each sign. Remember to watch for your sun and rising sign to get the most accurate picture of the energy ahead. But we'll start off with looking at the overview of the major transits, and then we'll do the sign by sign. If you want to skip the overview, you can use the timestamps below to go to your sign. Remember, sun and rising sign. So the first thing we have happen on November 4th is we have Mars moving into the sign of Sagittarius. And so here's Mars energy is about our drive, how we take action, our goals, our desires. And he's been in Scorpio, and now he's moving into Sag. So we have Mars in a fire sign like Sagittarius, which is a really optimistic sign, a sign that is forward thinking, that likes to explore, that likes to have the freedom to spread their wings, to take adventures. They're super optimistic. And so the energy we're all experience with Mars and Sagittarius is this need for freedom. And it's freedom to explore what we're passionate about, what we're curious about, what is connected to our perspectives or beliefs. So there's very much an energy with Mars and Sagittarius around the freedom to expand our belief system, our philosophy on life, it's really to search and find what we're curious about and how we want to move through the world and this experience. So one thing I would say, the shadow side of Sagittarius is escaping. So watch for behaviors or actions that you're trying to escape something. You know, we are in Scorpio season with the sun in Scorpio. So there's an energy of we actually need to feel and experience on a deeper level. However, with Mars and Sag, it's maybe there's going to be moments where if things are really heavy, I feel like I need to get out and have some fun and explore. And so find the balance there. Find the balance between, deeply feeling and navigating the emotions and deep waters of Scorpio season, while also expanding your perspective and your beliefs and your philosophy on life with Mars and Sagittarius. I'll talk about what this means for each sign individually, because when Mars hits the Sagittarius part of our chart, that means that we're going to be motivated and driven in that specific area of our life a bit more when Mars is transiting through that. On November 5th, we have the full moon in Taurus. And so overall, the full moon in Taurus is a beautiful time of feeling really embodied, working on our self-worth, our values, our sense of security, specifically through things or the material or physical world, because Taurus is connected to it's an earth sign. So we have to be able to touch it, feel it, smell it, see it. And so with this energy in all full moons, there's a need to release anything that kind of keeps us from feeling worthy of something we deserve. And so whenever we have the new moon and full moon each month, they're usually in the same axis. So we have the full moon in Taurus, which is about our worth, our values, and where we feel safe and comfortable and secure, so that when we come to the new moon in Scorpio at the end of this month, it's we're planting seeds to be able to open up and be more vulnerable, and to also experience life on a deeper level. So they're connected, and I'll talk about that for each sign. But I like the full moon in Taurus at the beginning of the month. It's definitely a time that I would suggest really getting into the body, into, feeling where are you externally finding worth when you actually need to be finding it internally. And so that's a really good question for all of us during this full moon in Taurus at the beginning of the month. around your values and worth and where you find that within yourself. And that aligns with the movement of Venus into Scorpio a couple days later on the 7th of November, where Venus in Scorpio, Venus rules Taurus. And so Venus has a connection to our self-worth and our values. So when Venus moves into Scorpio, it's like really get into the power dynamics of that, in the sense of where are you giving away your power? Where are you externally finding worth, when really it's getting into your soul and understanding you are already worthy and whole. And when we're talking about Venus, we have to talk about relationships because she does rule connections and partnerships. She also rules, our needs, our love languages, our values in all areas of life, not just relationships. But she's really going to highlight our need to go deeper in relationships. And so one of the things we were going to explore when Venus is in Scorpio this month is going to be, where are we out of alignment in the connections we have, where they might feel superficial, and where we need to go a little deeper into what feels where is there inequity in our relationships, especially power dynamics. Where am I giving away too much of my power, and where I need to take that back? And oftentimes that's going to show up of like not feeling worthy in our connections, because maybe those connections we don't feel safe in those. So you're really going to want to find or give time and energy into these connections that feel safe and comfortable, so that you can open up and be intimate and vulnerable. That's one thing with Venus and Scorpio energy we're going to feel this month, is like learning where we might have barriers to intimacy or barriers to trusting another person because of previous wounding. With Scorpio energy, it's oftentimes going to show up as a wound of abandonment, or a wound of separation, or insecurities, or distrust in other people. So like, where are you having to work on trust issues? Because ultimately, when we don't trust ourselves, we don't trust other people, we don't trust life. So what do we need to do to feel more trust? We have to love ourselves. We have to trust ourselves before we can even trust another person with our vulnerability. So there's some energy there with Venus and Scorpio. I love it for deepening relationships and connections of all kinds. Like with Venus and Scorpio, she really wants to go deeper. She doesn't want to stay surface level. So if you are in a relationship, this is an opportunity to deepen that relationship. If you are single and looking for love, this is an opportunity to bring in to alignment, especially around the new moon in Scorpio on the 20th of November, connections that light your soul up, that like somebody truly sees you. That's true intimacy. Somebody sees you on that soul level, and there's a level of acceptance there. But you've got to learn to accept yourself first. And because relationships are mirrors, so you're going to call in what you need. And if you have work to do around self-acceptance, you're going to call in a partnership or a connection that's going to teach you that lesson of self-acceptance. So that goes along with Mercury retrograde this month that happens on the 10th. There's a lot of energy around going inward. There's a lot of energy around when Mercury is retrograde. It happens 3 times a year, so we're used to it. This isn't something unknown, okay? So with Mercury retrograde, there's an energy around going inward before we express our thoughts, our ideas. Before we communicate, we need to make sure it's truly in alignment with our soul. Truly in alignment with what we truly want, right? In alignment with, like, are we sure we want to say that? Or am I just saying that because I want a reaction or a specific response? Like, watch where you're trying to control the outcome there based on what you say. The Mercury retrograde starts off in Sagittarius, so there's a little bit more of a connection around mindset and belief systems. And then he moves back into Scorpio near the end of the month before he goes direct on November 30th. So there's an energy around, first, our thoughts how our beliefs, and then a little bit more of Scorpio focus when it comes to our feelings. So being able to kind of go inward to process this, and what are the practices you need to go inward to help you connect and get more clarity. When we have a Mercury retrograde, we sometimes feel like there's a lack of clarity. And that lack of clarity, I often tell my clients when working on, trusting their intuition, is like, when it's a I don't know, that's spirit saying it's a not right now. Okay? Because when it's a yes, it's a yes. When it's a no, it's a no. But when it's a I don't know, that's oftentimes spirit saying, not yet. You don't have all the information just yet, so hold off. And that's kind of the energy of this Mercury retrograde. It's like, you don't have all the pieces yet. So let's investigate, especially when that Mercury retrograde goes back into Scorpio. Let's investigate a bit more as to all of the details. And those details are oftentimes within yourself first before going external for those details. So that's such a good thing to remember when we're talking about our intuition and in this Mercury retrograde. When it's a I don't know, when there's a lack of clarity, there's some time and missing information that needs to be found. And this information is not found externally, it's found internally. So that's really beautiful. Another big energy this month is Uranus going back into Taurus. So Uranus entered Gemini this summer, where he's going to be for 8 years. However, there's a cycle that needs to fully close when Uranus goes back into Taurus this month, and that's happening on the 8th of November. So this cycle started back in 2018 when Uranus entered Taurus. And so we've been working through this for years, but this summer he dipped into Gemini to give us a little bit of taste of what's to come. And now he's ready to close out a cycle with that Taurus part of your chart. So pay attention when I'm talking about sign by sign, especially the Taurus energy for the beginning of this month, because that area of life aligned with the full moon in Taurus is really coming to a resolution point, or a point of, hey, have you made the changes in this area of your life? If not, this is the time to do it. This is your final moment to close out this cycle and to really finish up what you've been working on these past 8 years, right? And so this is the opportunity to do so. I love that we have this full moon in Taurus in alignment with Uranus moving back into Taurus, because it's really, with Taurus energy, like all fixed signs, it takes a bit more for it to make change happen, because there's a little bit of energy around the uncertainty of change and not liking change. Especially fixed signs tend to stay much longer than they need to. And so if there's something that you've been meaning to change in your life, or you've been working on slowly building that change over these last 8 years, the full moon in Taurus plus Uranus in Taurus is like, it's time. The time is now. The new moon in Scorpio happening on November 20th. Love this energy. It's super auspicious. There's a grand water trine during this time. And basically what that means is we have a lot of potential. Trine energy in astrology is potential energy. There's potential for something beautiful to come. So use your natural gifts and talents to set the stage for that. We are going to have this new moon when we have a Mercury retrograde. So we're planting the seeds, right? We're not going full speed ahead yet. You can do that in December, okay? But right now we're planting the seeds, and we're taking small, like internal steps to say we're ready to manifest something new in the Scorpio part of our life. And so when I go through each sign, you can pay attention to what that is. But I really love this new moon. So leading up to the 20th of November, as we kind of get closer to that new moon, especially after the full moon in Taurus, there's a lot of releasing energy of habits, behaviors, or thoughts that are keeping you playing small, that are giving away your power to things externally, that are just like habits you want to break because you truly want to call in something that is in alignment with your truth, with your soul, with what empowers you instead of disempowers you. So, okay. Then on the 22nd of November, the sun moves out of Scorpio and we enter Sagittarius season. And so I love that this is happening right before we have the holiday in the United States known as Thanksgiving. and where people are gathering and being a bit more social and having a bit more fun, because when the sun is in Sagittarius, the sun is like, okay, we've just like navigated the deep waters of Scorpio, so you get a break. You get some fun, some lighthearted, optimistic energy. You get a lot of passion to, have more adventures. You do have a little bit more desire for freedom. So making sure that your connections are solid during Scorpio season so that you can spread your wings a bit more and have a bit more fun. Watch for overdoing it, being reckless, especially with Mars and Sag. Like Sag energy, I always say this, and when I teach my astrology for health and wellness with Sag, they live a long time unless they do something stupid, because they're super reckless, because they just love to have fun. I have a lot of Sag energy in my chart, so I get it. Like I like to jump out of planes and do crazy things like that. That's like Sag energy. So be careful that, especially with Mars and Sag, with the sun and Sag near the end of the month, just be careful that you're just not overdoing it and burning out, so that you make space to have fun, but also make space still, because we will still have the retrograde. We'll still have that internal energy to slow down and find stillness. So, all right, let's go through sign by sign, starting with Aries. All right, Aries, with Mars and Sagittarius this month, it's really highlighting your 9th house of, again, exploration, fun, sharing your knowledge, learning, traveling. Maybe you're thinking about traveling in the future. Maybe you're thinking about taking a course. Maybe you're thinking about publishing something. Maybe you're thinking about what you believe and how you expand your perspective on life through experiences. So this is a really beautiful time to put energy and focus on your experiences in life and how those maybe past experiences has shaped your belief system. And then also kind of the experiences that you wish to have moving forward, really kind of being in alignment with your soul and what, really lights you up, what you're passionate about. The full moon at the beginning of the month is in your 2nd house. So again, Taurus energy with that Uranus retrograding back into Taurus and the full moon in Taurus. Your 2nd house is about self-worth, value, and how you make money, your income, your material resources. So there's a lot of emphasis on your material world in the beginning of the month and your self-worth. So if you've been working on developing more self-worth, if you've been working on bringing in more income, if you've been working on your material possessions on that make you feel safe and secure, you're finally closing out a cycle of things were holding you back from obtaining that, and really feeling more empowered and worthy of everything you desire. And so there might be some changes you need to make when it comes to budget, for example, when it comes to your self-worth, and the things that kind of have been holding you back from feeling you are worthy of everything you desire, which I love, because that work you do in the beginning of the month, that work you do with that Taurus energy is actually going to help you have better connections and collaborations and shared resources with the new moon in Scorpio. So deeper intimacy, vulnerability, being able to express yourself, being able to share your needs, being able to express your truth because you feel worthy of what you deserve. And that can be in all areas of your life, such as work, romantic relationships, personal friendships, family, things along those lines. There's some power dynamics at play, and you might have been afraid to put your foot down or say what you need. As I'm speaking, I'm getting this is Taurus energy is the throat. So it's like, where have you blocked your expression of your needs because of fear of someone's response or reaction? So that's what I'm getting for you, Aries. Let's pull your card for the month ahead. Okay, 7 of Wands is your card. So the Wands is fire energy. And the 7 of Wands is really about, this really represents this Mercury retrograde energy going inward, really connecting with your inner fire, with your worth, before you can express outward. And the 7 of Wands is that energy of the fear of potentially expressing yourself and creating conflict. But if you get really centered in yourself, in your worth, in, with Mars in Sagittarius, like what practices you need to kind of feel like your beliefs and your perspective on life, like really in alignment. That's something that this 7 of Wands is saying for you, Aries. It's like, be open to expressing your desires without fear of someone's reaction, and getting so in alignment with your sense of self, right? Aries, you are naturally the sign that rules the first house in astrology. So there is very much an energy naturally of a strong sense of self. But if you've fallen off that strong sense of self, right? Or that's been something you've been struggling with, this month is really about how do you reconnect with that so that you can then express that outward. Okay, Taurus, November is a big month. It is a fixed month. So all fixed signs such as Taurus, we're in a fixed season. So you really feel these new moons and full moons because, again, you're going to have a full moon in your own sign in the beginning of the month, Uranus going back into your sign, and then your opposite sign, Scorpio, a new moon at the end of this month. So very powerful month for you, Taurus, specifically around your 1st and 7th house, so self and relationships. So one of the things I would say with the full moon in Taurus coming up at the beginning of the month for you, plus the Uranus going back into your sign to finish up a cycle, is there something around your identity and sense of self that you've been working on over these last 8 years and over the past year, especially with this full moon energy. We're at our 6-month mark before we have the new moon in Taurus back in May of 2026. So it's been 6 months for that, but it's been 8 years for Uranus. So there's a lot of energy around releasing old identities that no longer suit you, so that when we have the new moon in Scorpio on the 20th of November, which is in your partnership sector of your chart, you're planting seeds for relationships that honor that sense of self, and you can retain that autonomy, but also have a deep, loving connection. And if it's not intimate, it could be personal or business related as well, friendship as well. So it's like relationships and partnerships of all kinds that honor who you are and how you choose now to show up in the world and express yourself. That is less of external, and more internally driven, right? Because that 1st house is really about your strong sense of self. This also connects to your physical body too. So if there's been anything that's been kind of, weighing your energy down or just impacting your physical health, the beginning of the month, you're going to take care of getting everything you need to get done and checked up, and just kind of reevaluate that part of your life too. Mars in your 8th house correlates to the Scorpio new moon energy we have at the end of the month. So it is Scorpio energy. The 8th house is ruled by Scorpio. So there's a lot of energy for you this month around your partnerships, collaborations, and shared resources. I'm getting a lot around business and work for you with this Mars in the 8th house. The feeling I'm getting is very much of like your partnerships, your collaborations, your relationships, but I'm for the work perspective of like, is there an inequity in your shared resources? I mean, you could apply this to intimate relationships too. Where do you feel the lack of reciprocity? And are you overgiving? Or for example, are you maybe taking too much, right? Like we have to look at all sides of it. There's something around the inequity or balance of power and resources for you when we have this Mars. There might be collaborations or partnerships you need to cut ties with, or you need to have an honest conversation, because Sagittarius and Mars in Sagittarius is not afraid of an honest conversation. So there's something around that. But one thing I will say, Taurus, especially Taurus risings, that you have an opportunity to really call, if you are single and looking for partnership, you have the opportunity to call that in this month. If you're connected with somebody already, you have an opportunity to deepen that relationship. And if we're looking at it from a business perspective, you have the opportunity to create more balanced power dynamics in your collaborations and partnerships. So there's a lot of opportunity for you, Taurus, there. Let's look at your card for the month ahead. Oh my God, I don't make this up. I really don't. So you have the Six of Pentacles, which you are an earth sign. So, you know, pentacle energy, tangible earth resources, that's Pentacles. And Six of Pentacles talks about balance. There are two hands here. They're both giving, right? And receiving at the same time. So it's the balance of power, the balance of resources that are happening here. So if something is out of balance, this is the month to adjust that so that things are reciprocal, right? And so the dynamics of give and take, right, with you, Taurus, is really important for November 2025. Okay, Cancer, this month really highlights your 11th and 5th house. So the full moon in Taurus is in your 11th house at the beginning of the month. So you're actually going to feel the desire to be more social at the beginning of this month and actually all month, because then the new moon in your 5th house of creative expression and playfulness and joy and pleasure. You are Cancer energy, so you are very much nurturers and givers, and you love to like cook food and bake and like nurture and take care of people. And so you're kind of want to have that, but you also want to make sure that you have the dynamic of people in your life that also nurture you. So looking at your relationships more so from a friendship, network, collaborative, but like network and like friendship energy. The community you surround yourself with, let's put it that way. In the beginning of the month, there's some shift in energy there of like, how do you align with people that feel supportive and nurture you while you nurture them? Okay. Friendships are really key for you this month, especially in the beginning of the month. And then as we get to the new moon in Scorpio, it's about your creative expression and planting the seeds of how you express joy and how you feel pleasure and joy. It is connected to children too, or your inner child if you don't have children or don't want them. But if you are looking to have children, there's a positive influence when we're looking at the end of this month to start planting the seeds of calling that into your life. But it is really about calling into your life. I think I skipped Gemini, so we'll do that. It is really calling into your life the energy of what brings you joy and pleasure. Okay. Your 6th house is impacted by Mars and Sagittarius. So there's an energy around your daily work, habits, wellness routines, rituals, in the sense of what are practices you need to do to be more creative, especially around that 5th house energy, or around how you are of service to people, because you are a sign that tends to want to help and take care of people. There might be a dynamic of, well, how are you taking care of yourself first so that you can take care of other people? So that's really important for you to focus on this month, and to do some evaluation and put some energy into your daily habits and routines, your daily work. 6th house also rules like employees, colleagues at work. So maybe there's some energy there and focus around that for you. Let's pull a card. I just ultimately feel this month for you, Cancer, is a more social month. It is a water month, and you are a water sign. So they tend to be like really fun, exciting months when we are in the same element of our sun sign. So there's a bit of energy around connecting with family and friends and you know, bringing in more joy and pleasure in your life. So that's something that I would definitely pay attention to this month around, you know, where are you calling in more opportunities to feel joy and pleasure. I love that you got the 10 of Cups. The 10 of Cups speaks to like just it's fill your cup. how do you fill your cup and fill other people's cups? But like ultimately fill yours first, you know? Like, especially with this Mars in the 6th house of what can you do on a daily basis to fill your cup? And then this really points to being around family and friends and people that feel super supportive and being more social this month. So I really love, and this is just such a card of like joy and happiness, and like it which is ultimately that new moon in Scorpio for you in your 5th house. Okay, Gemini, this month really highlights your need to heal and to take care of yourself from a health and wellness standpoint, and potentially call in people that can help you do that. The reason I say this is because Mars in Sagittarius is transiting through your opposite sign, which is your 7th house. And that is the house of partnerships, connections, collaborations, but in the sense of like one-on-one work. So I tend to see this, especially when I see the full moon happening in your 12th house of healing and release, and the new moon in Scorpio happening in your 6th house of health and wellness. What this tells me for you, Gemini, is how do you connect with maybe a coach, a mentor, a counselor, or just like somebody that just allows you to like get into your body and do some like healing work, but also like help you create new health and wellness rituals or things. Maybe it's a breathwork facilitator, because I find that Gemini does really well with breathwork because it's ruled by the rules the lungs. So Gemini, there's this energy around the need to get out of the head and into the body. We are in Scorpio season, so we want to feel a little bit more. In Gemini, you're an air sign, so you tend to think instead of feel. So I love this, and like the combination of the full moon and new moon and then Mars and your 7th house tells me you're calling in a practitioner or somebody, and maybe it's a friend or a partnership that really is helping you feel more grounded. Shadow side of Gemini is you can get a little scattered, right? Or overextend yourself socially. And so sometimes you just need that grounding force. One thing I will say with Mars transiting your 7th house, Gemini, is that if there's any dynamics in partnerships that just don't feel grounding, you might want to work through those with that person. And that can be in business, personal, friendship, family, anything. Where somebody just feels like it knocks you out in the sense of like you feel ungrounded around, or drained is another word I would say for that. It's like, do you feel drained by this person? So it's like there needs to be some good conversation with Mars and Sagittarius of like, all right, this is not feeling like it's supportive for me, especially when I'm trying to kind of get a bit more into my body and out of my head. Gemini, like all air signs, tend to be a bit more anxious. So if somebody's making you, that highlights that anxious energy in your life, like you might want to distance yourself from that for a bit. So let's look at your card for the month ahead, Gemini. Yeah, I'm just really strongly getting, Gemini, that there's an energy of connecting with someone, especially around like maybe doing research. Maybe you don't set up an appointment just yet because it's Mercury retrograde, but like you start doing research of calling in somebody to work with that just helps you either through breath work, meditation, body work, counseling work, talking, whatever it is. Like they're just helping you get out of your head so much and into your body a bit more, so you can really feel super clear and grounded, because you are ruled by Mercury and your ruling planet will be retrograde this month. So there's like a little bit of a lack of clarity for you this month. All right, what's the card for Gemini? Okay, the 4 of Wands. I love this energy in the sense of like there's an opportunity to ground. The 4 of Wands really feels like home, stability, and energy around like celebration. And so when we're thinking about healing work, daily rituals, connecting with people, the feeling of like 4 is really stable energy in numerology. So it's like Saturnian energy in the sense of like it's grounded. So it's like really focus on connections that feel this way. And if those connections don't feel uplifting and supportive, you really need to have the honest conversation. Wands are, fire energy. So there's this Mars energy really around your desire for this, and to connect with people that help you find that sense of, stability, but that feels lighthearted, because you are an air sign. So you don't want to feel like dragged down by it, but you want to feel uplifted by it. And so I kind of feel that energy for you, Gemini. Okay, Leo, this month is a really big month for you because Scorpio season, Scorpio is a fixed sign. You are a fixed sign. And so the full moon and new moon for you are happening in your angular houses, specifically your 10th house and your 4th house. So there's an energy around your full moon in Taurus, Uranus going back into Taurus in your area of your 10th house. So this is your mission in life, the roles you play, your career, your work, your public reputation. So there's something that's off there, or that you're finishing up a cycle around that 10th house energy, around the roles you play. And the roles can be multiple roles, like at work, at home, because anything that impacts the 10th house impacts the 4th house where your new moon in Scorpio is hitting. So your work-life balance is really coming into play this month of like, is it out of balance? Are you giving too much to the home or too much to the work? Like where do we need to find the middle point so that you feel really set and stable and secure, and the ability to kind of express yourself in the most authentic way? How you shine your light. You're a Leo, like you're ruled by the sun. You know how to shine. You naturally have this beautiful magnetism and ability to express yourself. But if you are putting too much of your emphasis on external validation, 10th house, of how you're recognized, we really need to adjust that. And so with Uranus moving back into Taurus too, and having that full moon there, is where are you out of balance there, or where you're seeking too much external validation because you just want to be recognized in some way. And so there's some healing there that needs to happen, or some just awareness of where you might be seeking too much external validation. The sun rules our ego in a way. And so Leo, you have this like desire to be recognized. But I think that's most important piece, especially around the new moon in Scorpio at the end of this month, is like, it's like you want to be recognized for every part of you, not just the external facing part of you, but your roots, your emotional world, your foundation, your inner world, with that 4th house being activated during the new moon in Scorpio. Like you want somebody to truly see you, the beautiful part of you inside, not just what you're showing and shining out. We want to see the deep parts of yourself, the emotional, beautiful, like sensitive, loving part of yourself that maybe only few get to see, but that's something that's really important about how are you expressing yourself in the most authentic way, not just based on what you think people want to see, but like how you want to express yourself. Because Mars in Sagittarius is transiting your 5th house, and that is the house about creative expression and authenticity and joy and pleasure and how you experience joy and pleasure. And it's also children, and it's also our inner child. So if that inner child is seeking validation because of something that happened in childhood, that new moon in Scorpio in the 4th house is really about like, well, where do you need to recognize that maybe I didn't receive that growing up, and so now I seek it externally? Where do you find it within yourself, especially with the Mercury retrograde happening in Sagittarius also at the beginning of November. So there's an energy of find your inner passion. I do love Mars and Sag in your 5th house for potential like hobbies or spending time with children that kind of bring out that playful side of yourself, because maybe there's just been too much focus on all the roles and responsibilities you have with that 10th and 4th house in both home life and work life, that you haven't made a lot of time for fun and pleasure, and creative expression. So I think, Leo, there's really an energy around finding the balance point so that you're feeling that you're expressing yourself in the truest way possible, not just what you think other people want to see. And where are you putting too much emphasis on external validation, and where you need to kind of go inward and validate your own inner child in a way, and give them recognition for the beauty that resides within you. So let's pull a card for you for the month ahead, Leo. Okay. You got the Tower card, which I'm not surprised, okay? Because this kind of feels like a month where there's a lot of Tower moments, and the Tower card is change. And whenever we have new moons, full moons, and even like big major shifts like Uranus going back into Taurus, which is going to hit an angular house for you, whenever you have angular activation in your chart, specifically like fixed signs, because you're a fixed sign, just like Taurus and Scorpio and Aquarius, that this is a month of major change. And the activation of that change. It's interesting. When I pulled it out, it was reversed. And I usually don't take the reversals, but this really hit me in the sense of like, this change is actually being sparked internally for you first. So I think like a lot of this kind of what we talked about, you know, for you this month is starting internally, that then as we move through into the next month, shifting to an external expression. But you might have a lot of internal aha moments, or you know, especially with Uranus moving back into Taurus in your 10th house, there's this energy of like, I've got to make this change. If I don't make this change, I'm not going to see the outcome that I want to see moving forward. So that's a big one for you. Okay, Virgo. November for you is all about the full moon in your 9th house of perspectives and beliefs and travel and sharing your wisdom, publishing something. So if you've been afraid to put yourself out there and do something different and experience something different, this is the time to do it, especially because Uranus is moving back into Taurus to kind of finish up the cycle. So if you've been working on something to publish or share with the world, now is the time to kind of set the intention that you're ready to put it out there. Wait until Mercury retrograde is over. So December is a great time to do it, especially because we'll be in Sag season. But I definitely feel like for you, Virgo, there's an energy of you're ready to say, put this wisdom and knowledge out there and shift your perspective and have these new experiences that you've been working on. The new moon in Scorpio is happening in your 3rd house. So it has a lot to do with mindset, community, local community more so than greater community, neighbors, siblings, social media is a big one when we're talking about the 3rd house. So maybe you're going to start in your local community with this project, and you're definitely planting the seeds at the end of the month when we have the new moon in Scorpio on the 20th of like, okay, I'm going to start here, and then that expands outward. I definitely feel like there's an expansive energy. Also because Mars in Sagittarius is activating your 4th house of home and family life. So you kind of want to be close to home, and a lot of your energy is around being at home or being in places that feel like home or connections that feel like home, and an emphasis on your foundational work, on your roots. Maybe you're doing stuff to your home, fixing things up where you live, putting a little bit more emphasis on your environment in which feels safe and comfortable for you, so that you do feel confident and supported in this venture that you're going to do. I feel what I feel for you and kind of sense is that you'll launch whatever this is in December. And maybe in December, I'll give a little bit more details as to when, but I feel like you're launching whatever this is in December, but you're putting in the legwork right now and like planning how you want to do this. And I think you're starting it in your local community. I mean, it could be as simple as a book club. It could be as simple as like something like that. Like, it doesn't have to be huge, but for some of you, it might be. For some of you, it's a project, especially with Uranus moving back into Taurus, that you've been working on for a while. All right, let's pull your card, Virgo, for the month of November and see what the energy is overall for you. But there's definitely, especially with Mars moving into going through your 4th house, is there some sort of focus on home, family, roots. Something's happening in family dynamics too, for you. Okay, I love it. This makes so much sense. You got the Page of Pentacles. So again, you're working on an offering. You're working on something around that's tangible, money, material possessions. And the fourth house often is a tangible sense of home and environment. So there's something that you're working through, and a page is a message. So I think you're going to get a lot of clarity or messages if during the Mercury retrograde, Mercury is your ruler. Okay. So going inward and connecting with yourself, and the clarity coming from within, not externally. Okay. What do you want to do? So really going inward to get the clarity to build success, to build strong foundational work, especially with Mars in your fourth house. Okay, Libra, this month, your 8th house and 2nd house are being activated for the full moon and the new moon. So there's a lot of dynamics around shared resources in the beginning of the month, a lot of dynamics around collaborations, intimacy, power dynamics. So especially with Uranus going back into Taurus for you, you're really finishing up a cycle. Libra, I know I'm a Libra, I get it. You're an overgiver, you're a people pleaser. Well, let's stop that, okay? Let's expect reciprocity and equality in all connections that we have. And so that's something really important this month for you to work through. With especially this full moon and Uranus going back into Taurus in the beginning of the month, so that with the new moon in Scorpio you have on the 20th of November, there's an energy of creating more worth, self-worth, worthiness, that you deserve, a higher pay, you deserve. I'm almost getting this energy too of like, let's say you are an entrepreneur and you have a charge, and you say, okay, it's going to be this much. And they're like, well, that's too much. Can you go lower? And in reality, like your offering is a reasonable price for your time and energy. And maybe the old you would have said, sure, I'll sacrifice that to please you. Well, now you're just like, that's the price, and if you honor my time and energy, and if not, I understand if that doesn't work for you, right? Because you're a compassionate soul. You're not going to be like, well, F you, So there's something around that feels really important. And you could apply that to romantic relationships, business, any type of relationship, to apply that energy of reciprocity and equal give and take. And it's like, I'm not going to overgive or overcompromise anymore. That's huge for Libra. Don't overcompromise. And don't allow yourself to just be steamrolled by somebody because you want to please the other person, right? Mars in Sagittarius is actually transiting through your 3rd house this month. So there's a lot of focus and energy on your mindset, mental health, communication. This is what ties in. Okay, I'm getting it now. Getting the full picture now for you, Libra, in the sense of a lot of times Libra is afraid to communicate their needs or communicate their worth because they're afraid of the other person's reaction. And so I think there's a lot of mindful work and mindset shifting this month with Mars and Sag around, okay, I'm no longer going to not say what I want to say. I do think with Mars and Sag and with the Mercury retrograde, especially in the beginning of the month in Sagittarius, like maybe go inward before we say it, just to make sure that you feel comfortable in your delivery that's really connected to your worth. That's something that's coming through. Or shifting your mindset, right? Or doing something around, be careful about the emails you send and things you post on social media when Mercury retrograde through your 3rd house, especially in the beginning of the month, because like I feel like one thing I see with Libra energy and is that like you don't say things and then it builds up and then you explode. So be careful with that. Be sure before you say something or send that email that it's coming from not a reactive place. It's coming from a place of like your truth. So Yeah. Whew. Whenever we have Mercury retrogrades in our third house, and you'll have this, Libra, be careful about your text messages, your emails, things you post on social media, because oftentimes, or just technology is going to be a little bit more wonky for you, especially in the beginning of the month. All right, what's the card for the month ahead for Libra? Makes sense. You got the Knight of Swords, which is swords energy, is air energy. You are an air sign. The Knight is taking action. So again, communication, thoughts, mindset. There's something around your mental processing this month about communication really coming through. So this card is just saying you might want to say a lot. Just make sure that it's truly alignment with kind of ultimately what is your truth and what you want, instead of how you're communicating to please other people or over compromising. Yeah, with Mars and Sag and Mercury, Sag retrograde, just be careful of the impulsivity and the reactive energy of your thoughts and your communication. So taking the breath, all air signs could use some breath work, taking the breath to go in before communicating and feeling really solid in how you express yourself. Because if we don't feel solid in what we're saying, especially Libra energy, it's almost like you're going to get too swayed by people's reaction, and then you're going to change your mind, and then you're going to be mad about it because you're like, I didn't want that, I didn't want that. So okay, Scorpio, big month for you. We are in your season. Happy solar return, Scorpio. You're having the full moon in your opposite sign, Taurus, and then the new moon in your own sign. So I love this energy for you, Scorpio. We're in your season. So there's a lot of emphasis around yourself and partnerships. The beginning of the month is really going to be about partnerships for you, relationships, in the sense of feeling like, am I in a relationship that feels safe and secure for me to open up? One thing with Scorpio energy is that a lot of Scorpios, it takes a lot for them to trust somebody. You could say that Scorpio energy has trust issues because they've been wounded in the past, because when Scorpio goes in emotionally, they go like all in. Like there's no like half-ass with Scorpio energy. They're like in. But for them to determine that they want to go in, there's a bit of fear around, can I trust this person to truly see every part of myself? Because Scorpio energy is very intense in the most beautiful way, because they are deep feelers. And so for you to want to feel comfortable, right? And Uranus moving back into Taurus to finish up a cycle since 2018 of like a lot around like the relationships you tend to call in. Like, do they make you feel safe and comfortable? And also realizing that safety and comfortability in relationship is a beautiful thing. Like relationships don't have to be toxic, right? And so I'm getting a lot for Scorpio, especially Scorpio risings. Be careful around this, like these old habits of calling in toxic or tumultuous relationship dynamics, because you connect with that deep, passionate energy, but passion and comfortability and safety can also go hand in hand. And so there's a finishing up of a cycle there with this Uranus going back into Taurus and the full moon in Taurus in the beginning of the month. Like, oh, this is what it feels when my nervous system feels at peace. Like I feel comfortable and safe, and like also that allows me then to be so much more intimate with somebody on a deeper level than feeling the toxicity and always on edge. The new moon in Scorpio at the end of the month on the 20th is really you kind of planting a seed of how you want to show up and how you want to embrace like your magnetism and your passion. And I mean, Scorpio, you just naturally have this beautiful intensity to you that scares a lot of people, but in like the best way, right? Like you maybe like push their edge a bit, and instead of not liking that response or that part of you, like really embracing that part of you and planting the seed of, you know what, like if you don't like it, like that's okay. You don't have to be connected to me in that way. So Mars in your second house for the month of November is really putting an emphasis and energy and drive in your material world, how you make money, your material possessions, feeling safe and secure. So again, this Taurus energy, less about other people though with Mars and more about your environment and the work you do and how you bring in money and how you the things you surround yourself with to feel comfortable and secure. So there might be a little bit of more emphasis on earning money this month and more emphasis on the ways in which you do that or your material world. Okay, this one just like flew out, so I'm going to take this card right away. I got the Two of Wands, which I love because the Two of Wands is like the endless possibilities. And I really feel like this is connected to the Mars transiting your second house of, wait a minute, there's so many ways in which I can bring in more security, stability, and safety, especially around my material possessions and relationships. And so it's like there's options. Two, usually in tarot means there might be two options. And I feel like this option right here is like the old way of like maybe you need to leave behind that toxicity and that like old habit and like really explore this option where she's like, all right, I'm going to take this one because it feels good, right? Trust how you feel. Trust how you feel. You are deep feelers. Your emotions can tell you a lot of things. Okay. Sagittarius. So November for you is really highlighting health, wellness, deep healing, the need for rest, and the need to kind of retreat a little bit and focus on yourself, especially around your rituals. In the beginning of the month, the full moon in your sixth house is like, is there a food or a habit or something that no longer aligns with me? Or maybe there's something I'm realizing I've been wanting to implement from an everyday work or health and wellness perspective that I haven't just made the leap. Or you've been too distracted. I'm gonna be honest, Sag, like, you often are doing 8,000 things at one time. And so maybe you just need to get a little bit more grounded. You also are going to have Uranus transiting back into that sixth house along with that full moon in Taurus. So there's an energy around finishing up a cycle around health and wellness and daily work. I do feel like this is also connected to your work, but I feel the strongest connection to your physical body and physical health, especially because Mars will be transiting in your sign, Sagittarius, so your first house. So there's an energy around your physical health, your physical body, your identity. And I think that connection with the beginning of the month, with the full moon in Taurus and Uranus going back into Taurus, there's definitely a lot of energy around ways in which you handle stress. Stress management is a big one. All fire signs, you're not excluded there, fire sign Sag, tend to be very prone to burnout. So are you overextending yourself doing multiple things, and where do you might need to kind of ground a bit more? So Mars in your first house, Mars in your sign is really activating, I feel like a little bit more stressful energy so that you learn how to deal with stress. And then the new moon in Scorpio in your 12th house, really just like, how do you rest? I mean, they go hand in hand. Like if you are stressed and overextending yourself, where are you needing to find stillness? One thing Sagittarius struggles with is stillness. They are always on the go. They are mutable fire. So it's like, let's have a new experience. Let's go, have an adventure. And then they struggle with just slowing down and being like quiet, because they can be a bit restless. And so you might feel restless energy. So with the new moon in Scorpio, I would say, what are practices in which you can develop to find stillness that also feel that if you activate your mind through that stillness, maybe it's like reading a book or going on a hike or a walk where you're moving energy. I feel like you can find stillness a lot easier. Okay, so for you, I got the Justice card, which is Libra energy. So it's all about balance. So the Justice card, I love this here. It's like, it kind of makes so much sense with what you're going through this month, but it's like finding the balance, because if you don't find balance, okay, I get this. If you don't find balance, like, you're going to ultimately create a system, a body that is out of balance. And what I love about Eastern medicine, and especially like Chinese medicine, is they treat the imbalance. So if you are feeling out of balance, maybe you need to find a practitioner or somebody that can help you kind of from the inside out, especially with that Mercury retrograding your sign in the beginning of the month, or for most of the beginning of the month, of like, where are you out of balance because you can't focus, or there's a lack of clarity or groundedness. So you could seek finding someone to help you, or it's just practices or rituals or daily things you can incorporate to help you find more balance, especially with that Justice card. Okay, Capricorn, the full moon and new moon this month for you are activating your 5th and your 11th house. So it's about joy and pleasure and embodied joy, embodied pleasure, because we're talking about Scorpio and Taurus energy. So the full moon in your 5th house in the beginning of this month in Taurus, and especially Uranus going back into Taurus to finish up a cycle, it's about embodied joy and pleasure. There might be an emphasis on your inner child, and there might be an emphasis on your children, if you have children, or creative expression, or hobbies, or things that bring you joy. I feel like, Capricorn, I love you. You are my go-getters. You are my overachievers. I love Capricorn energy. Like, they get shit done. But at the expense of your own pleasure and joy, of like, when are you finding time for that? So if you have, what are the barriers that have kind of been in place that have blocked you from feeling joy and feeling pleasure and playing more? Like, Capricorn, you just like take on the responsibility of the world, like, have more fun. And the new moon in Scorpio in your 11th house on the 20th of November is really talking about planting the seeds of friendships and connections and networks that actually create an outlet that A, feels supportive, and B, allow you to express that fun, playful side of yourself. One thing that's coming up for you with that energy that I'm feeling for you, Capricorn, is new friendships, new connections, or creating new dynamics in friendships and connections. Oftentimes, Capricorn, you struggle with asking for help because you're just like, I'll do it myself because I can get the job done, because you can. But it's more so like, where might you need to lean on your community more, or your support system more? And if you don't have a supportive community, how do you build that? So that new moon in Scorpio is really emphasizing that. Mars in your 12th house is talking about your need for rest. It is talking about your need for retreating a bit into the more soulful side of you. If you have the opportunity to take some time off of work, if you have the opportunity to kind of go on a solo adventure, if you have the opportunity to go on a retreat, maybe with like-minded people, especially near the end of the month, like, I would do that. As we get into Sagittarius season, there is a little bit of a need to slow down and don't overwork yourself, Capricorn, which you tend to do. So that's something that I would pay attention to this month. So let's pull a card for you, Capricorn. You deserve it, okay? You deserve all the rest. You do so much. All right. Okay, 3 of Pentacles I'm getting for you. So like, we think about 3 of Pentacles as like, Pentacles is like creating, building structure. It's very earth energy, just like your sign, Capricorn. But it's like, where could you delegate some work? Where could you find a balance point? There's 3 people here. There's not one person doing all the work. There's 3 people collaborating. So there's an energy of like, in order to find that time for rest and play and pleasure and joy, you need to kind of build a system or a structure that allows you to delegate more responsibility instead of you taking on all the responsibility. Repeat that again, okay, Capricorn? Stop taking on everything and create systems, networks, community that allows for you to make some adjustments. Now, If we're talking about a work card, because let's be honest, a lot of stuff with Capricorn has to do with work, I would say, are there structures or things in your work that you can create to delegate more, to take off your plate, instead of you always taking everything on your own plate? So that's important. Okay, Aquarius, this month is really powerful. Again, you are a fixed sign. We talked about this before, but we are in fixed season. So all fixed signs, including yourself, are going to feel this month, especially the new moon and full moon, more so than any other sign. So the full moon is happening in your 4th house of home, family, foundations, roots, stability, emotional security. And Uranus is going back into Taurus as well. So you're closing out this cycle around home and family, emotional foundation, your roots and nourishment, family life, origin, childhood, potentially working through some things connected to that. You might be renovating something in your home or choosing to move or thinking about it. Maybe I wouldn't kind of necessarily start something new with the retrograde energy, but if you're going back and thinking about it and really kind of feeling into what do I need to feel more emotional security in my home and family life. And then the new moon in Scorpio is in your 10th house of work, career, mission in life. So you're feeling really connected to planting new seeds and taking on new roles that feel so aligned with your ability to express yourself authentically and what your soul desires as a mission in life versus maybe you've been hesitant to kind of put something out there that, Aquarius, you're a little weird in the best way. I'm an Aquarius rising. I get you, express that weirdness a bit. Don't be afraid to shine in a way that's so authentically you. It's beautiful, and you will attract the opportunities that are in alignment with that out of the box, unconventional side of yourself that we all love and admire, because it's a beautiful thing with Aquarius to have that unique quirkiness that they're not afraid to express it. And if there's anything that's been getting in the way of you expressing that, it's the time to kind of release that. This is also really important for you to have strong network and community. So Mars in Sagittarius is transiting through your 11th house of community, network, friendships. It's really get out there and connect with people, especially around that new moon in Scorpio, of evaluating your, because we have Mercury retrograde too, it's reevaluating your networks and your connections and how you present yourself in those, or the people that feel supportive and uplift you. If they're draining, get rid of them, right? Maybe not so. You can't get rid of everybody, but don't give your energy away, your beautiful, unique energy, to things that don't feel uplifting. And think about it, right? Pay attention, go inward during the Mercury retrograde this month to be like, how does that make me feel? Aquarius, you tend to detach from your feelings because you are an air sign. So during this Mercury retrograde, it is not just about your mind, but it's about your heart. Let's feel into it, especially when we get to the end of the month, when we're kind of getting a little bit more into the Mercury in retrograde in Scorpio. But I love this energy in the sense of Mars in your 11th house is get out, be social, connect, network. Think about your network connections. It's if I'm launching something, for example, with this new moon in Scorpio, who can I reach out to in my network, right? Who that I know that I can, especially with Mercury retrograde and Sag, it's who can I reach out to that I already know, to kind of reestablish a connection or potentially an opportunity to help spread the word or make new connections and collaborate and network. So let's pull a card for you, Aquarius, for the month ahead. Knight of Pentacles makes so much sense, right? There's, especially around that new moon in Scorpio, we are planting seeds and sharing, taking action and sharing a way that I show up, especially in my work and career and mission in life, which often ties to Pentacle energy, which ties to grounded, earthy energy. But it also, the 4th house, for example, of our foundation, that I feel confident that I have the structures in place to feel grounded and stable to launch or to pursue something that's going to be more, give me an opportunity to really express myself in the most authentic way. I love this because he takes action, but he's not like Knight of Wands, which is like moving too quickly. It's like slow and steady movement because we do have the retrograde. So there is some emphasis on making sure that this really is in alignment with your authentic truth and how you want to express yourself. And that you've done the work, fourth house energy, Taurus energy with Uranus and full moon there, to feel really grounded, right? Because you are an air sign and all air signs tend to be up here, right? And so we need to make sure that we have the foundation work to spread your branches and the root work to like really spread those branches and have a bigger reach, because with the new moon in Scorpio, you can really, and plus Mars and Sag transiting in your 11th house, you can really spread the word and make more connections and collab and like really expand your network. You just have to have a solid foundation to do so. Okay, Pisces, last but never least, because we love you, Pisces. This new moon, full moon, this energy is really activating your 3rd and your 9th house. So the full moon in Taurus is your 3rd house, and also Uranus going back into Taurus in your 3rd house. So there's something about teaching, learning, social media, network, community, something you're doing in the collective that's close by to your home, maybe even siblings, neighbors, that if something hasn't been working, you release it, and you're really aligning with feeling valued in those communities and those in networks, especially social media, your local community, in your sibling relationships, so on and so on. Also mindset, something here with the 3rd house around how you communicate. One thing with Pisces energy is you're such a sponge and you will take on the energy of everything around you. So you need to make sure that what you're putting out there is truly yours and not someone else's. And that it's not, so we work on boundary work. With all Pisces should be working on boundary work because they're just going to soak everything up. So it's really important that this month you're really putting into practice maybe this work you've been doing over the last 8 years with this Taurus energy in your 3rd house, that Uranus goes back in. It's like, hey, have you made the changes to that? Because if not, it's time to do it. And then the new moon in Scorpio in your 9th house, you're really going to start planting the seeds for publishing something, putting something out there, maybe travel, something along those lines. Belief system, perspective. But I really feel like there's something big you might be working on. And you're planting the seeds. Mercury retrograde, we're not doing it yet, but we're planting the seeds. Because Mars is transiting your 10th house, so it definitely feels like it's connected to work and your mission in life. And so all these things that are activating your 3rd, your 9th, your 10th, there's a lot around what you communicate, what you put out there, and creating the space and getting really clear on what is in alignment with you for moving ahead and launching something in the future. Just make sure that it's not what somebody else wants, but it's what you want and what feels right for you, because you are so sensitive to your environment and compassionate and empathetic that sometimes you can get lost in what others want for you instead of what's right for you. And so if there are any, especially with Mars in your 10th house, if there are any things you've been doing that are out of alignment, it could be time to let those go or time to make adjustments to that. Don't be impulsive though. Really, especially with the Mercury retrograde, we're not going to take action just yet until December, but there's really the awareness of what's working and what's not working for you. All right, let's pull a card for Pisces for November. Okay, you also got the 2 of Wands. Virgo got that too. And you're both mutable signs. And so you're sister signs. So it's very interesting that you also got the 2 of Wands, because again, this speaks to an opportunity that is no longer in alignment, and something you're ready, and you're just like, you have to make a decision this month. But in order to get clarity, especially during this Mercury retrograde, you have to go inward and really remove all of the that's been like clouding your judgment, and allowing yourself to get really grounded in what's yours and what you want to do. So it's interesting you both got this card as sister signs, especially since we've had the eclipses this year in Virgo and Pisces. So there's a lot of releasing the noise to call in what's in alignment. So I love this. I love this energy for you, especially with Mars in your 10th house. I think it feels really connected to an offering or something you put out into the world, and how you're recognized with that 10th house energy. Okay, that's it. Thank you all so much. And I will see you next month.